gonna try. Kelsey and Vanessa and Beverly Todd, RCIA graduate in 2018.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah?
Yep.
Cool. Okay. How did you first hear about or decide to get involved in the Christian education courses with Joseph Milner? Vanessa Todd of Kelsey and Vanessa Todd. Baby's not letting us record together, so we're gonna do ours separately. My husband decided a couple of years ago that he was called to become Catholic, much to our joy, my joy, and we were church shopping and visited College Church and knew immediately that was our home. And Kelsey, I can't remember what happened first, if we decided to go to College Church or he connected with Joe, but it kind of happened at the simultaneously where we decided that's where we wanted to go as a family, but also where Kelsey wanted to pursue RCIA. So he was going on the weeknight inquiry classes. I forget something they're called like that.
All right, so my name is Kelsey Todd. I joined, I was baptized in 2019, I think, or 2018. God forgive me. And I started the RCIA process in, I think, 2017. This year's been crazy, so I can't remember very well. And I had originally reached out to the Archdiocese, I believe, in St. Louis, and through their website, and I called a number and left a voicemail, and I talked to them, and their schedule wouldn't allow me to start until, I think the RCIA classes weren't starting until later that year. And I called College Church and left a voicemail for Joe, and he got back to me saying to come on in, the classes were starting. And so I started to go in, I think on Tuesday or Thursday evenings, and just started to have, this is before RCIA, this was the process where we were just, determining whether or not it was something that we wanted to actually move forward with for RCIA. And that was a real amazing experience for me, because Joe would let us ask any questions we wanted about Catholicism, even what one would consider, now sacrilegious or just not properly worded questions, I guess, and not sacrilegious in a really intense way, but just ignorant, which is fine, no judgment, just, what do Catholics believe about this? Or, yeah, I heard this in movies, and I've seen this in television and read this. And so he fielded literally any question you could possibly have. And I met my friend Jonathan there, Jonathan Howard, who also went through RCIA, and he and I would ask what we would consider to be really mundane questions, like, I wonder if, Jesus, I wonder what his sense of humor was like, or, questions about Jesus' humanity. I wonder if he had a favorite pair of sandals, or, if he joked with his mom and dad, and things like that, and just what one would consider not necessarily important, but really trying to get down to the humanity of Jesus and whatnot. And Joe just answered all these questions, and he would never do a soft answer. He would always answer with the very thoughtful. He picks his words very carefully and skillfully and answers questions. It's as if someone is guiding his words, which I'm sure someone is.
My husband, Kelsey, decided that he wanted to become Catholic a few years ago. And we had just moved to St. Louis from Seattle and needed to find a church home. And that was happening at the same time that he was looking for where to take RCIA classes. And we came to Mass on a Sunday morning and decided for sure that College Church was where we felt at home. Pretty much, I believe the same week as when he talked to Joe, and decided that he wanted to move forward with RCIA with him as well. So it was we were just feeling really called to the community at College Church, and I think that Joe Milner is such a huge part of that. His humility and giving spirit and knowledge and just generosity and kindness are so contagious. And he has shaped such an incredible education program at College Church. I had not planned on going to RCIA with Kelsey every week, but I went a few times and was learning so much from Joe, and just loved his classroom, his approachability, his humility, while still having an unbelievable amount of knowledge and information. He was so just humble, is so humble about it. So I was super drawn to that, and so I ended up going most every week with him to the classes, and it was such a great experience for Kelsey and I as a couple, and for us each individually in our faith journey. So it was such a huge blessing, and continues to be. Our group, there were several candidates and catechumens that year in 2018. And we've all stayed pretty close and meet every month or so. And Joe's involved with that frequently, and we'll have a itinerary, kind of has a syllabus lined up for us for things to keep building our knowledge, growing our faith. And he is such a busy man, and the fact that he makes so much time for us still is incredible. He is so active and thoughtful of everybody in the College Church community, and he's such a blessing. I've been especially just grateful and impressed by him through the pandemic. We had been meeting every month, the 2018 group, and he and Sandy and Carol would all come, and obviously got to a point where we decided we shouldn't be meeting in person any longer. And so Joe organized Zoom calls and was checking in on everybody and putting together readings and leading discussions for a while every week. And we've cut back to, I think, every other week. It's so involved, and Joe has such a huge pull on him. His schedule is very full, and the fact that he gives that much time to, he doesn't need to, he's done with us. Baptisms and confirmations are over, and it's the fact that he still gives so much time to my husband and his family is just amazing. And it really has solidified our place in the College Church community and grown our faith and just drawn us closer and closer into the Catholic Church. Yeah. Joe and Mary are such a beautiful representation of a Christian marriage. They are so loving and thoughtful of one another, but share each of their gifts so freely with the church community and just their neighborhood community. Everything that they're involved in, they give so much of themselves. And as a newly married couple that was going through our CIA, that was just such a beautiful example. And it just sparks that conversation of, who do we want to be? How do we want our relationship to evolve? What do we want our family life to be like when we're bringing kids into the picture and things like that? And Joe and Mary have just continued to give us such a beautiful example of that, and are so open, when we do have questions or we need help with anything. They're such a huge resource. Joe, I know that I should probably call the secretary or someone different within the church, but anytime I have a question, I just go straight to Joe, and he always leads me in the right direction or just answers it directly. Yeah, so Joe's the best.
So I started taking classes, went through RCIA. I told, Joe that I would like to continue on and do official RCIA, which then went to Sunday mornings before Mass. And so we would meet up during, a little while before Mass, and then we would go in and start celebrating Mass, and we'd be excused partway through, and we'd go in the back room and we would talk about what we'd learned and heard. And that was really nice, because I'd grown up going to a church, going to a Christian Science church, and had always felt a closeness and a spirituality. And I'd always believed in a God and thanked a God for my life. Not a God. I'd thanked God for everything in my life and the challenges even. But really learning about getting deeper into things was what Joe really helped me with. Learning about, I'd always read the stories and the parables, and I'd heard about Jesus' disciples, and I knew all the quotes in the Bible passages, but really learning about the reasoning behind them. And as an adult, going deeper into detail and asking Joseph Milner these questions, he would elaborate and kind of tie everything together for me to a point where it was like every week I was having an epiphany, or a breakthrough when it came to my understanding of God and Jesus and Catholicism, really.
The message I would like to convey to Joe is thank you. You are such an unbelievable gift and blessing to everyone who meets you. You have brought so much to our family, to our marriage, to our each of our faith journeys and our commitment to an understanding of the Catholic Church. And we're so much better for having met you and continue to learn from you. So thank you. We love you.
Hi, my name is Gabby, and I had the wonderful pleasure of meeting Joe about 3 years ago when I started the RCIA program.
And my name is Michael. I'm Gabby's husband and had the pleasure of meeting Joe during the RCI program. What struck me was how inclusive he was. I was able to participate in the group and found it to not only be intellectually and spiritually engaging, but a way through which we deepened our relationship. And I deepened my own relationship with God. I've grew up Catholic, been Catholic my entire life, and Joe's modeling offered me an opportunity to really just have a better understanding of what it means to be a layperson within the church. I think Joe is and has always been a man for others, and it's so critically important, especially in these times, to see people, particularly lay persons, who are devoted to God and who create a kind of a path through which you can deepen your own faith. So we've been very blessed to know Joe in that forum, as well as our wedding prep.
Yes, we really enjoyed going through that process with Joe as our leader, as well as meet all of the wonderful people in our RCIA group. And I just want to say thank you again, Joe, for extending that beyond what could have been just a set amount of time, as he has continued to be there for us every other week, getting scriptures together, meeting with us via Zoom, so we can continue to grow together in this wonderful community that he helped to orchestrate. So thank you so much for giving us a great growth in our own individual relationship with God as a couple, but also with a great group of people that we love dearly. So thank you, Joe, for bringing us together and expanding our horizons. We love you.
We love you.
Hi, my name is Gabrielle Greer, and I am so happy to be here to talk on behalf of Mr. Joe Milner. I first met Joe about 3 years ago when I had made the decision to join the RCIA group, where I found some of the most incredible individuals that I thankfully still talk to every other week in an organized way, and I think of each and every day. It's impossible to articulate how much of an impact that Joe has had on my spiritual life, as well as my own personal life. He created a community that I did not know that I needed until I had it. And I went through things that either personal loss or spiritual growth that I did not know that I would need to rely on until I went through those incredible experiences and had those people to share it with. My experience with RCIA, I feel like, was orchestrated perfectly by Joe because of how he carried himself in the sessions, the incredible amount of compassion and community that he developed, not just in the questions that he asked, in the questions that he encouraged us to ask, but also the way in which he pursued each and every circumstance with his utmost energy and accumulated wisdom that he's gathered through all the incredible places that he's been to, the people that he's met. And I am eternally grateful for having met him, having been a part of RCIA with an incredible group of people, and for Joe being the person that gave us the space and the atmosphere to become closer to God. So I want to say thank you so much, Joe, for all that you've done for all of us, all that you will continue to do, and for giving me the space, the community, and the tools to approach my life in a way that feels more authentic, more compassionate, and to always know that God is there for me. I want to say thank you.
Hi, my name is Gabe, and I was confirmed in the church at the 2019 Easter Vigil. I want to take just a few quick moments to highlight some of the many things that Joe does for those in the RCIA class and to share what a tremendous impact he has and has had on each one of us. When I started the RCIA process, I was very skeptical about the Catholic Church. There seemed to be a lot of what I'll call rules and regulations in order to be Catholic. Joe's instruction turned all of that around for me, though. First, some quick background of where I was when I met Joe. I grew up a Protestant, which to me was very relational. I then wrongly expected that the Catholic Church was just the complete opposite. If it weren't, why would I not be Catholic? I thought, if I don't do enough Hail Marys or genuflex or give enough, I wouldn't be accepted into the kingdom. I thought that I couldn't get into heaven because there's no way that my works could ever outmeasure my sins. Mainly, I started out attending RCIA to really prove to myself that the Catholics had it all wrong, and I thought that process would confirm all of this for me. You can bet the works question was the first of my many questions to Joe. Joe helped show me that wasn't the way of the church. I instead learned that everything the church does is to help increase our sense of relation with God. The works come from the relationship that we experience with God. There's no magic number to get into heaven, but rather it was all about living out our Christianity. As an outsider looking in, I saw that there's so much symbolism in the Mass and all that the Catholic Church does. Joe helped solidify for me that from start to finish of the Mass, everything that we do is to remind us of the journey we are on. An early memory I had was the telling of my sponsor that I wasn't sure why the church had to have the pomp and circumstance of the processional and recessional. When asking Joe why this was part of the Mass, I was informed that it was to remind us that we are all on this faith journey together. We are all called to pick up our cross as we work on being better Christians. Needless to say, I quickly regretted my previous description. Joe led and leads the RCIA process as a discussion group, as opposed to a lecture class. This makes it so inviting to attend. It was informal, which allowed for all of us to feel welcomed and ask questions without feeling judged. Joe always sets the room up with chairs in a circle, not in rows or a square with him at the top. This room setup very much led to the discussion taking on a group mentality. While Joe was providing instruction, the setup symbolized that there was no hierarchy to the process. We were all free to share and express our opinions. The hierarchy setup, I feel, would have prevented the free flowing of thoughts and questions that arose during our instruction. Joe's instruction and his selfless acts of love helped me realize who and what the Catholic Church is. Though I certainly believe that Protestantism is a very valid form of religion, I believe so very much in what the Catholic Church believes in. I have a much deeper and meaningful faith experience by being Catholic than I ever did being a Protestant. And that's all thanks to the instruction that I received from Joe and from the church. Lastly, I just want to say that Joe's commitment to the RCA class and to the church is incredible. He was always available to provide answers to our questions. There were several times that I had off-topic questions and had to reach out to him outside of the RCIA class. And these were all things that were going on in my personal life that I just wanted to better understand. Joe is always more than willing to answer and provide supportive readings. So Joe is just a great and awesome resource for those going through the RCIA process. He's even gone through and made himself available for our 2019 class. We have decided we want to continue to meet, and so we get together once a month as a group to continue learning and growing in our faith. And Joe has just made himself available and is really just such a blessing to our group, and couldn't be more thankful for everything that he does. So thank you, Joe, for all that you do.
My name is Allison Reed, and I was in RCIA in 2018 through 19, and then came into the church during Easter Vigil Mass 2019. When I was ready to start asking about the Catholic faith, I had run out of things I could just Google. I needed to talk to someone who had really lived out Catholicism, who could describe what does our faith really mean, in our daily lives. What are the implications of our beliefs? And so, I needed someone who's really living and acting on faith. And in conversation with Joe, it is obvious that he's someone who has thought deeply about his Catholic faith. Any question you ask has a thoughtful answer, and he has an answer not because he's making something up, but because he has thought about that question before. And he's looked for wisdom in his life, and now he's able to share that wisdom with you. You can ask any question that comes to mind without being judged or being afraid of being judged. You're never made to feel like you're not Christian enough or that you should already know this. There's just a sense of openness, and that openness that Joe cultivated let us ask our true questions that we really needed answered. And not only that, but it really led to the creation of a community. And I consider the people I went through RCIA with still to be my friends, and that has been such a gift, especially because I didn't feel like I had much community before. And that's something that was really developed just because of the way Joe runs RCIA. He is an example of a life that is being lived well. Any time spent in conversation with Joe is by nature an invitation to join him in living that kind of life. He called us during RCIA, and he still calls us now as we meet, to be thoughtful about Scripture and what does it really say, and what is God really calling us to in our current situations. And because Joe has put a lot of thought into what God is asking of him, you are then called, you want to also put a lot of thought into what God is asking of you. You want to be able to, make the most out of what we're doing together in the group and make the most of conversation. Every time I left RCIA groups then, or even when we meet now, I find my faith renewed. I come away wanting to know more of God, wanting to know more about Scripture, and I value the church more than I did before. I'm just so thankful for Joe, and I am thankful for that community, and so thank you so much.